Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Lance Boody joining me today as the guest. We're really excited. We're both in the Rock Coast entrepreneurs, and so we've known each other for several years, and we're going to have some fun. Thanks for joining us today.
Passage is here to help at the end of your pet's journey. Dr. Robin Elms offers at-home veterinary service when it is time to gently help your pet pass to paradise. Cremation is available, paw print is included. Pocket pets and exotics are welcome. Please visit apeacefulpassage.net or call Dr. Elms at 207-230-7222.
Do you know an aging loved one who needs some assistance so they can stay at home? Then call the compassionate, caring professionals at Aging Excellence. Aging Excellence means trusted provider of non-medical in-home care services, supports seniors with day-to-day needs such as personal care, housekeeping, meal prep, transportation, and more. Let Aging Excellence be that helping hand your loved one needs. That's Aging Excellence, seniorsonthego.com.
Astrology with Anna Noor since 1976. Local astrologer Anna Noor is available for individual and private chart readings, on the phone or in person. Anna Noor writes a weekly column in the Free Press. More details are available there.
If you want to do, when you do your introduction, something I don't hear a lot of people say is, tell us a little bit about, you have family and stuff like that. And, you don't have to, because especially if you have anyone that's listening in, sometimes the kids really love it.
I think my wife is like, I'm gonna not listen so you don't really care. I think my dad's in Florida, he's hoping to watch it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurs Hour, the show where we bring you inspiring stories, expert insights, and practical tips from entrepreneurs right here in our community. I'm your host, Chris Austin, president of Ardiah Managed Services, as well as the Rock Coast Entrepreneurs. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different. Along with hosting, I'll also be playing the role of guest as we dive into some important topics. Joining me today is an incredible entrepreneur, someone who has built a respected brand and business in the Mid-Coast area. Please welcome Lance Boody, owner and founder of Bayview Painting. Lance, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So Lance, let's start with you. Now tell us a little bit about your journey. Now you've been in the painting industry for over 20 years, and in 2012 you founded Bayview Painting. And basically, what sparked your decision to start your own company after so many years of working in the in other industries as well? So what helped you, what launched you? And also tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
All right. So what sparked it? We'll get right into it. I'm married. At the time, I had 3 kids. And I was in an industry that I didn't love. Loved the people that I worked with. And I made a rash decision one day. I said, I'm done. I just wasn't making great choices, and so I needed a job, and I had some skill. I had, been down the painting road before, so that was the thing I decided. I decided I'd go to something that I enjoyed, something I knew had some potential for growth. If I'm not inspired or challenged, I lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've experienced in a lot of my professional career. I've done a lot. I've been on, I've tried the jobs where you had the benefits and the security, but it didn't fit. And I got bored. So, I woke up one morning, I handled it wrong. I woke up one morning and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I called my buddy, I said, I'm done. And, I don't think he talked to me for a couple months, but it was a decision that, it just happened. And I I went back to something that I enjoyed, and that was the main thing. And I needed to make money.
Yeah.
So that's where I fell.
And that's the hustler starts coming in all of us, right? Because you're looking for that little bit
Yep.
extra money. You got a family and you got
Yep.
3 kids, and that's got to be scary, though.
I was terrified.
You're terrified.
I was terrified. Yeah. But I mean, in all honesty, we went to a Patriots game that weekend, and we weren't doing great, and we got there. I mean, I could have won 1 beer, and we rolled back into the driveway that night with like 0 gas. So it weren't like I was killing it financially, anyways.
Right.
So like, yeah, it was, but I needed something that inspired me, that gave me the freedom I need. And I think in a lot of entrepreneurs, authority is a problem, and I have a problem with authority. So
Okay.
when I
It's a real topic.
yeah. So I don't know, like not being my own boss and making my own things. Now, granted, sometimes that played, the wrong way because I was my own boss. I could do whatever I wanted. It did take some things seriously, but yeah, I struggle with being managed, being told what to do. I like to be able to experiment and grow. Try new things.
How old were you when you did your first, when you did your first side hustle?
I was.
When did you get your taste of that
20.
entrepreneurial?
I was 20, just about 21.
Yeah.
I worked for a painter in the area. I hadn't been with him long. Winter came, and he had no intentions of keeping us. So I was like, well, I mean, if he could do it, why not? So I started my own thing. Did great. Had no problems getting work. Had no problems really doing the work. Just wasn't responsible.
Yeah.
Again, did a lot more celebrating than we should have.
That happens.
Yeah. And big money was coming in, and not being mature enough to handle it was the deciding factor to get out after a little bit my first time.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'll do a little introduce. This is kind of weird for me. So, as I introduce myself every week on this show, president of Ardiah Managed Services, but, my entrepreneurial, journey started when I was actually in school. Last week I had the opportunity to teach some kids at RSU 13 and shared my experience, because that entrepreneurial, that little taste of it actually started for me at a really young age. And for me, it was my first side hustle was sneaking out of my parents' house at 2 a.m. and jumping in the ponds that was right behind our house. No, I was not rich, but in Florida, it was we golf courses everywhere, and we have a golf course right across the street of our big neighborhood. And so all my neighborhood pals and I would go swimming in the middle of the night and dive for golf balls.
Oh, nice.
And then we would clean them up, get them all shined up, and then we'd sell them on our way to school or after school at the golf course. We'd sell it to the golfers, and that dream came to a crashing halt when one night all the weeds started crumbling down and coming towards us. And I was like, Jesus, I started walking on water, and I was out of there pretty damn quickly. And that was an alligator, and that was the end of my entrepreneurial dreams, as what I thought. But I was supposed to be an engineer. I was supposed to be a professional bowler, and but instead, when I graduated high school, didn't have any money saved, and my parents didn't have the ability to put me through school. So I had made the decision to become a banker, and I started on the teleline, and 20 years I was in banking and leadership, and it was a great industry. But in 2017, I actually made the decision to go out on my own, and I started a business in 2018 called Austin Payment Solutions. And that's when you and I met, because we're in the Rock Coast Networkers together. And I was terrified after having a guaranteed paychecks, the guaranteed benefits, the guaranteed retirement plans. I could go home at night and not have to worry about work, but I was not satisfied with what I could do. for my customers. And so the dream was born. I went out there and I started Austin Payment Solutions. And in 2019, one of my old clients from KeyBank reached out to me and said, "What do you think about selling your business and merging with ours?" And I was down in Booth Bay. That was Osmond Page. And next thing you know, we merged. And Mo gave me a great opportunity to become president of the new entity called Ardiah Managed Services. And a lot of people don't know what Ardiah does when they see our logo, but Ardiah, we do accounting, we do payroll, payment solutions, we do technology projects. A lot of our customers know who we are with our point of sale systems at the local restaurants, but we're more than just that, and we also have a tax practice. And so that's kind of, that's a little bit about us, but it's we've learned a lot, and I'm sure we'll probably get into that because it has not been that easy of a road, especially in 2020 when we started Ardiah as that new entity. Yeah, we all know what happened just a few months later, and it has been a roller coaster ever since. But we've had some awesome things that have been going on. So enough about me, because I want to talk about you. And so for me, it's, as entrepreneurs, we all go through, the ups and downs, as I've talked about. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned, Lance, along the way? Whether it's about leadership, managing and growing a team, or navigating difficult projects. We'd love to hear about your experiences.
The biggest lessons. I guess my biggest one came really kind of like end of last year, this year. We talked about it a little bit. Is my hiring process, like the way we have people, or the people we have within the company. I think, like most, was trying to hire and build my company off of people with skill, and that got me fired. I mean, it did. I won't lie. But the problem with that, Chris, was that with these people with great skills, sometimes they brought to tables other things that really just didn't fit the culture and what I was trying to build as a company. Because as I grew and became, I guess, more interested in the business side of things, rather than the painting side of things, I realized exactly I could envision a company, whereas before we were just kind of painters. So going through, looking at what I was trying to build, company-wise and culture-wise, some of those people with tremendous skills just didn't fit. And not to say they were bad people. It just didn't fit. So it's probably December of 23. We decided, or I decided, with my team, that we were going to start hiring based off the baked-in stuff, the stuff that we couldn't train. Integrity, kindness, attention to detail, the stuff that comes natural within a person, instead of the stuff that we could train. And in doing that, we had to really hone in on how we were going to train, and build an actual training system, and what the process looks like at doing that. And the hardest part about that is there's no timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people want to say, you're going to do this for X amount of time, and then we're going to move you over here and train you here, and it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
People they learn in different ways. You got to take the time to get to know that person, how they learn, how they think. Are they, show them once and they get it? Is it tell them or show them pictures? I mean, there's so many different ways people learn, and really understanding that, being patient in that, especially
Mm-hmm.
when you're a busy company,
Right.
because the clients, they don't know, and they probably don't care. They just want you. They hire you to do a job. They
That's
expect
right.
you to do the job. So
Because if you make if someone messes up, it's not the employee's fault.
Yeah. I mean,
in the customer's perspective, it's yours, right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Ultimately, I mean, that responsibility is solely mine. I mean, whether the team, a crew realizes it, or people around. I mean, everything that comes and goes with the company is ultimately my responsibility. So, having people prepared, training people, it really changed the trajectory of where we were going as a company and how we looked at the people we were hiring. So it was one of the biggest lessons. Excuse me. Another lesson, being honest with yourself in moments, and knowing who you are. Trying to be someone you're not, or live up to other people, other companies' growth, and it's not going to do much for you. And comparing isn't going to do much for you. I've come to realize, people talk about competition. I don't look at it that way.
Okay.
Everybody has their own experiences. Everybody has their own clientele, the way they do things. So I don't look at other companies as competition. I mean, in fact, I think one thing this area could really use is, and especially in my industry, is more of a community within the painters. There's so many great companies out there, and we're all just so guarded. Like, we got these secrets we're going to take to our graves. I don't understand it. I think we could all benefit from a little more community within that industry. And I think you mentioned it. If you want to make change, you got to go out and do the work to make the change. But
Yeah,
it's a tough one. Even when I hire like older gentlemen and these great experiences that they have and skills, you try to get them to teach someone. And so I'm not giving my secrets away. It's like, where are you going with them? I don't understand that. Share that so that you can make other people better. And that is really ultimately
because there isn't a shortage of work for you guys, obviously.
No.
I mean, there's not enough of you in
Nope.
the trades, especially, but specifically painting, because I think a lot of people realize that the do-it-yourselfers painting is miserable.
It's hard.
It's
there's a
miserable
lot to it.
if you don't do it every single day. So I'm still trying to wrap my brain around, why do you do this? Because my wife, who's probably listening right now, Lindsay, knows like I have her paint because I am meticulous. Like I don't like lines. Like I take forever. I am the slowest painter in the world, and I could not imagine efficiently doing it in a high quality like you do, and still loving it each and every single day.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. So when I started, the love for it was actually the exteriors.
Okay.
I mean, there was something about taking an old house or a house that looked down and dumpy to turning it into a beautiful home on the outside. And you get the benefits being out in the sun. I mean, it was fantastic. It was hard work. Now, absolutely not. Like, I cannot stand I hate the scraping. I hate the sanding. And I tell my guy, I can paint with the guys a couple times a week, whatever. But it's just not where I feel like I don't get the sense of accomplishment, that sense of pride, like I used to. Now it's more the building the teams. Like we've taken people who never pick up a brush, and now they're painting trim, with some confidence and quality. So that flip side of it, it's no longer the when I step back and look at a wall. I mean, I've painted 100 walls. It's building people, that's where I feel the most sense of pride, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, going out there and as you stated, you had some competitions. So, so then you got involved in some networking opportunities and other organizations like the Chamber, I think that you got involved in as well. So help us understand a little bit of why you decided to get out there and, why was it important? And maybe even some lessons learned through that process as well.
So why did I get out there? one, I mean, you want to network, you want it, because word of mouth is, I mean, we keep our, our Google analytics, we know all our numbers, where our, like, stuff comes from. Word of mouth referral is still top. I mean, and it's free.
Right, that's true.
So getting out there, meeting people, telling people what you do. If you're standing in the background, no one sees you.
That's true.
So, which has been hard for me. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I get to those events sometimes, and you might see me kind of shrink to the back. I mean, I have an issue with it. But the other thing with those is having peers around you that have been through things, that understand, maybe some of the situations that you're going through, or thoughts that you're having about entrepreneurship, because it's hard, it's stressful. So having people that you can talk to is huge. Sometimes it feels lonely. So
I mean, that is a theme on this. Is that we talked about almost every single week is about being an entrepreneur. It is a lonely thing. We joke about it, with my friends, and my wife will even tell you, like, one of the things that the first year and a half, like, I was excited about the growth of Austin Payment Solutions, but I was so lonely. After 20 years of being in the banking world, I missed, don't judge me on this, but I missed, like, the Christmas parties. Like, like, what am I gonna do? Like, throw a Christmas party by myself with my family? That's called Christmas, that's the holidays, that's great, but I missed that interaction with peers, and what I did is that I kind of replaced that, and one of those things is that it was lonely for me, and I replaced it with getting more and more and more involved in, like, the Rock Coast Networkers, and because I think this is the fourth time that I've led this organization, but for me, it's being a serial networker, as I call myself, is that getting out there and creating this family, because when you do that, word of mouth, you're absolutely right. There's nothing that's more valuable and complementary to your business is when someone says they recommend X because of X. Like, people, when they hear those things, that is a real life testimony. They're like, wow, like, that testimonial is so important. And I think that you've actually captured some of those testimonials. Now, do you have that on your website?
We have some. I'm not as, again, learning. I weren't as good at keeping that stuff, like social media stuff, all that. We have a great virtual assistant, Paula. I meet with her weekly. She keeps me in line on those things. She's the one who's kind of making sure she's always on me about like, we have it's like a Google tab card that takes you to the reviews. So she's responsible for trying to get all that up. The cards aren't working quite right, so but yeah, we have some on there, and we do the client surveys where we get, we ask if it's okay if we put some stuff on there, and we just got to do a better job of putting it out there.
Yep.
So that's a thing I'm not great at. I do need to get better at it.
Yeah. Now, the next segment that we're going to talk about is expansion, because I know that's something that's reality for you right now.
Yes.
And in every entrepreneur's journey, especially when they've had great success, they're going upwards, right? So every single year they're growing, and they're like, the next thing they want to do is they want to expand. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But I want to talk a little bit about, your expansion. I mean, you have been, you're a Mid-Coast, everybody knows who Bayview Painting is in Mid-Coast, right? And so right now, I know that you're looking to really expand into that southern and central Maine area, and which is booming. There's not enough people for a huge population in those areas. So tell me about how that planning is going, and like what is your thought process behind it, and what type of resources are you going to need, and have you ever tried before, I guess?
No, never tried it.
Okay.
Never had the guts to really do it. But given all the hard work in putting in the systems and putting into play, almost like almost turnkey, like a McDonald's. I mean, everything we have is very structured. We use the same systems. Obviously, it was a goal. I think it came a little quicker. Like, I started talking to the people who really helped me get to this point. So my rep, Travis, he was the rep for the Rockland area. He decided to take a position in the central Maine. It's a bigger area, but he kept some of his, some of the people here, and I was one of them. He's been tremendous. And
awesome.
Everything, like, I can call him with just about anything.
Let's give him a plug. Like, so it's Travis. What organization is he?
He's with Sherwin-Williams.
Okay.
Travis Bessie just does a phenomenal job. I mean, he's helped me in so many ways in getting the things I need. I run business ideas by him, like, because he's been in the industry for so long that he's seen and he's worked with some of these companies that we aspire to grow to. So, and he's put me in contact with those people. I've gone to other people's shops. He's brought some of the higher ups from Sherwin-Williams down to our shop and tested products. I mean, he's really just given me opportunities that I never saw coming. So, we're all getting older. He's been with the company a while, and we had an honest discussion about how long he has. And he said he might 8-10 years. I said, well, all right. So if I want to grow, I want to use the resources and the people that have helped me get here. So my original thought was to take it down south. I'm going to go central, so that Waterville, Belgrade Lakes area, those regions, because that's where he is. That's his main area. I've already gone out to the stores and met the managers there. Had a really good conversation about what they want, how they operate, so that I can make sure that the things that we do fit them and help them at their store.
Sure.
He said he's got 8 to 10 years, so I want to make sure I take advantage of all the opportunities I have and the resources. With him out there and being able to help and guide me, he's already trying to help with meet contractors. I feel like, if I was to do it any later and you lose that resource, it's going to make that transition harder. So we decided Central Maine is where we'll go. We're really excited about it. We've already started the advertising out there, the hiring process out there. We'll bring people from there. We'll train them here, and that way they get the experience with us here, pay them for their travel, and then that way, they're ready for how our systems work before we start really diving into work out there. So we know everybody's on the same page and setting people up. Some of our managers have, stated interest that they'd like to go out there and help build it. So
that's awesome.
I have a fantastic team.
That's so important, because that's hard to do, right? These days, is to find that, number one, to fill your roster, 2, to have people who you can depend on, and 3, that people that you can invest in, and sounds like that's exactly what you're doing now. Also, too, is that we had talked a little about, you and I last week, is that you just, so you have an industry leader, somebody who's got great perspective, who's helping you from Sherwin-Williams, which is awesome to have that. But also, too, like you also need additional resources to be able to help you with that growth metrics, right? I mean, it's why did you ask that? Like, what's so important about having something like that for yourself?
For a Travis
or just like, I know that we talked about, our friend Peter Perconi, who's on the show recently, right? And is somebody who's a business coach and be able to do those things. So, why is it so important for you to have someone like that?
The business growth. I'm stepping into territory I've never been in. Like, I started a business here. There was always something to fall back on here. I don't have that out there. I don't know. Like, I've never thought about a marketing team or a salesperson. when do I start looking at putting, other positions in this company that it never dawned on me that I might even need. It's always been pretty cut and dry. Estimator, project manager, and myself. Now, I think every entrepreneur's goal is to eventually separate themselves. How do I do that? These are questions that I don't know, and you can ask. There's so many different advices, but having a coach or even a mentor that you can go to, and they put you in the position of help you, advise you in certain decisions. I do a ton of reading. I've read so many books by so many great authors, but it's not the same. I can't just reach out to the author and say, "Hey, what I'm doing this,"
Right.
So having someone that can help me and put that into perspective of how to position it so that it works, and when to.
Well, that's a really good perspective. For me, for expansion, that means that you're gonna, like we talked about, is that you're gonna have to take your key employees and put them in into different roles for that growth model. And so that means that there could be little things within your internal organization. I find that a lot, where especially with business owners, they start getting stretched too thin, and next thing you know, they're not asking for help, they're not asking for resources, they're trying to do it all. Like in my world, it's I see this a lot with growing businesses, is they don't understand the value of outsourcing, and it is pennies compared to the cost of, and no one really realizes how much their time is what their time is valued at.
It's the most valuable thing.
It really is. And, so we're going to get into that because the next segment is going to be resources for growth. So Lance, one of the things that we love discussing on this show is the resources entrepreneurs use to grow. Now, you've been in the game for over 20 years. What tools, resources, or learning experiences have helped you grow, not just as a business owner, but as a leader?
So tools, I have done some great things with different kind of companies that are supposed to help you build. I spent 2 years with a company called PFC. It's Profit for Contractors. First year was amazing. Second year, they're supposed to be a coach, and an astronomical amount of money. But the second year there's no guidance. So there's a do this, get back to me next week, and then you get back to them, and they're on to the next thing. So that was one of the resources I used to really kind of help build the first kind of platform. The second is it's called Run Like Clockwork. Mike McAllowitz. I decided I'm going to take that, and I brought my team, most of them, Jamie and Mike, with me, and we have gone through this whole clockworking process, and it really opened our eyes to some of the things that we were missing, the metrics, the processes. So if you mentioned when you're stretching yourself thin, if you got your processes in order and you're looking ahead and you're thinking about or asking the questions, what could pop up, those fires that could potentially grow, you're prepared for them. So you're able to put those out. You have a crew who's able and ready to jump in and help with situations. So you're always constantly growing them so that the next person's up. We have my goal is to have a bigger dream and goal than so that I can fit the team in, and that really helps them. So they know there's a place to go. There's a growth plan. They're not stuck.
Right.
So other resources, again, just a lot of books. John Maxwell.
Okay.
He's phenomenal. I've countless books by him on leadership. I do the leadership training on my own. I get up every morning at 4, and I start right around 4:30, 4:45 on my own personal leadership.
Okay.
I find it's hard, especially as you get more and more employees. They have to know and trust that you're putting in the work too, not just the physical work. I mean, if I'm going to ask them to grow themselves and be better people, I need to be doing the same thing.
Okay.
So those are my go-tos, and there's so many of them. But.
So let's talk about some of the other resources that are out there, because you've joined the Chamber of Commerce. You've joined the Rock Coast. Now was the Rock Coast Networkers. Now it's the Rock Coast Entrepreneurs. So why did you join those organizations, and what have you received for benefit from that? I know that we talked a little bit about those referrals and stuff like that you used to get, and you continue to get from your friends over at the Rock Coast Entrepreneurs, but it's more than just that. It's obviously.
Yeah, so I mean, those are great. I feel bad I haven't been to a meeting in a little while, but that being able to use those people, those resources, in helping them. One, you get the referrals, but two, being able to, like Marcy and John, we've had great conversations about back and forth about how to do certain things within the business or where to take the business, so that camaraderie that you get from those things.
So Marcy was a guest of ours, like episode number 1. So she's a friend of the show. So Marcy Lambert with Taylor Closet.
Yeah. And then obviously we're also trying to collaborate and maybe do some things together as a company, where they've got some garage floor, epoxy floors, and so we're trying to discuss and make that work. So it provides other opportunities. The chamber, I don't want to get myself in trouble yet.
No, it's okay. No, it's
so I joined the chamber, and I love the business after hours. I do. It's hard, in talking to other contractors. The business after hours is a great spot to network, and Peter Horch is a huge advocate for it. And he's right. You get out there. That's where you can really make some connections. I find on the other end, though, it's hard for when people walk to the chamber and ask for, they're not coming to ask for a painter or a plumber.
Okay.
So trying to, I think, the great thing that the chamber could try to is find a way to get that hands-on blue-collar industry kind of more integrated with it. I know it's hard to do. But that, I mean,
it's valid feedback, right?
Yeah, and there was some great things that some of the past presidents had talked to me about, like getting together for lunches, so that you could communicate within a small group. I think we said like 12 people and talk.
Oh, the 12,
stuff like that. And I just never saw it happen. And COVID obviously put some things, in the toilet. But
and I know that being on the board, but also with our tremendous leader with Shannon, I would just say is that stay tuned, because I promise you, our folks in the working waterfronts, our contractors, our manufacturers, our education, the perception is that the chamber is only about tourism, but it's far more than just that. And so we're going to continue to have more and more, and hopefully prove to you and others that the chamber is here as a resource. So that's good. So some of the other resources for growth is that obviously, you have to, when you're growing, it costs money to do that. And so you have to make financial decisions. So I think, would you say that surrounding yourself with a good banker possibly is really important? Has that been important to you? Or are you doing this grassroots style, meaning that you're just doing this with your own capital?
$20 and
okay.
and a horrible Staples card to start. Yeah, it was miserable.
Listen, I started Awesome Payment Solutions, $600 it cost me, and I would just say is that after 2 years, I was making more money than I had ever made in my life, and at the same time, I was, money doesn't buy you happiness either. But.
No. So yeah, we unfortunately said, I wasn't very responsible. I wish I had known how valuable credit was at the young age, and all those things, because I would have done things completely different.
Yeah, no,
but we have had some help. Morgan over at Bangor Savings, for the first time in over 12 years in. So I was 10 years in before I got my first business line of credit, which was huge. I mean, it's just that comfort.
And that's Morgan Laidlaw?
Yep.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, it was just that little bit of comfort, the peace of mind. Like if anything does kind of pop up, there's something there. I tend to forget that it's there, but we did it all. We didn't really get the loans and stuff like that, so I wish I would have.
I would say is that the other hats I wear with Ardiah Managed Services is that I also I'm a coach for like the Maine Center of Entrepreneurs, and what a lot of people don't realize is when you're scaling, it's so important to understand also your financials, where you are. So that means that your bookkeeping's got to be on point, your payroll has to be on point. And let's be honest, like you and me, we're not accountants and we're not payroll experts. Now, granted, play the role on TV, just kidding. I have a phenomenal team, but there's no way in hell they're going to have me ever touch QuickBooks, okay? Yeah. Because that is their world and I trust them and they do that. But when I was on my own, like I didn't have those things. I was operating out of my checkbook. What was available in my bank account? That's how I was able to make financial decisions, which is not necessarily what you want to do.
No.
So what's that importance to you? Do you look at your software? Like how do you look at your financials on a monthly basis?
Yes.
Like how do you do that?
So it's funny that we just actually looked at our numbers yesterday as a team. It is important. It's definitely it helps project where you're going. It tells you what you want to, where you can work on. So we see our marketing budget is like right where we wanted it. Labor burden's a little high, which is to be expected with a big turnover, and it costs to train. So all those things are super important, and we have just structured one of the things I was terrible at was meetings, and I was god awful. So I spent the better part of a week researching just how to run a meeting. Read a great book, Death by Meeting. It was phenomenal, and so now I said, okay. So this is now we've structured it. We've got, because we always our teams always had their daily huddles, but us upper management. We'd be calling each other. Where's Jamie? Hey, where's Mike? Hey, when's April in? I mean, it was just, it was a mess. And then we'd run meetings, and it was, they bored me. So now we are structuring that. So in our weeklies, we go over those financials and stuff like
so
that.
you're a contractor, right? So everybody just thinks that you just show up in, two trucks, what do we say, 2 trucks in a truck, right? And they're going to start painting a wall. And at the end of the day, so you're structuring yourself very similar to what I experienced at MBNA. You're using terms like huddle, team meeting, boredom, because listen, we've all been we had meetings about meetings, right? And that's what it seemed like the perception is, but it's so important. So you talked about, going over your financials, and you have to have confidence in your financials. And in my world, so many people don't really see that value to the point where even for our team at Ardiah, on a quarterly basis, I review the financials with them, and I don't sugarcoat it.
Nope.
I show them exactly where we are. And when they see that bottom number, which honestly the last numerous, several years, it has been in the red, because that's what happens when you're in growth mode sometimes, is that you're doing that and you're hoping to build it and they will come. And sometimes they don't, not for years, but that's okay. But you're showing that bottom number, and when you start going over the cost of your salaries, the bottom number, and they're a lot of employees, they just look at their paycheck. They don't realize that you have to also put money aside for all of those employer taxes that we all love to pay. And a lot of people just don't realize how expensive it is. It's if you're making 50,000, no, you're more. It's actually costing your business that you work for like 65,000 because of benefits and all of that.
You know, it's funny because they, again, a lot of these guys, and it kills me when they say this. Like, why do we need to know this? We're just painters. Well, first off, that mindset is wrong. The just painter mindset it's just terrible. I can't stand that. But we need to know this so we know where to move forward. Where do we need to improve? They looked at the payroll expenses yesterday, and I think my estimator, eyes popped out of her head. like it's insane. It is insane the amount that it costs to have employees. So having good employees, having them understand, that cost. And I'm very transparent with my team. I don't do a single thing. Realistically, I don't, in a long time, I haven't made one single decision for the business without involving my team. So they know at least where we're heading. I'm honest with them.
Sure.
I'm transparent. I show them. And I think it helps them have a sense of ownership in it, which is huge. They want to see the business do well. I mean, if the business doesn't do well, and if I lie to them and say, "Oh, we're doing great," it's not doing them any good. Like, help them understand it, help them know about it, give them a sense of ownership with it, and it's huge. Knowing your numbers is huge. So one thing I don't talk about a lot as far as like when I talk business. That's not what excites me.
Right.
I spent so many years in the red. Like there was times where we were 3-4 months behind on rent, and we were just making payroll and it was miserable. But 100% on me. I mean, I can, I can say I made some poor decisions, but the numbers are there. We're aware of them. We know them. We use them to help, to dictate where we're going.
And this would be a plug because, well, you're one of my customers. And so you came to me, we're at the Rock Coast Entrepreneurs. You hear my spiel every single time. And, one of the things that you were doing your payroll in-house. And you're like, get me out of this world. And so, what made you approach a company like Ardiah instead of you doing your own through QuickBooks payroll? Why did you choose to outsource that?
One, looking to the future. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that this company, I'm going to build it, and it's going to run without me. I'm going to put the proper people in place. I know that. So we had done payroll, and I talked to my wife. I'm like, what happens when we go on vacation? Like, I don't want to have to stop what we're doing to make sure that payroll gets done. Like, I don't, and I'm sure QuickBooks payroll service, I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they do great for most. They did not do great for me. It has been a nightmare. There's a lot of things that, as a full service payroll, that I expected that they were doing, and they weren't. And it cost me a lot of money, and a lot of headache, and a lot of time, and a lot of my wife's time, which she really doesn't have. Now there's no payroll. She has really nothing to do with it, the business, and she loves it.
Yeah.
She's probably the happiest she's been in quite some time.
That's awesome.
The
Well, I'm glad my team can do that for you. This is like a perfect segment, just talking about, my company a little bit more is that, we love working with companies like yours where you see the value, especially where you're in that expansion. And this could be for anyone that starts out because you've hit a couple of things. Your time is valuable, not just when you're working, but when you have to have that life-work balance, which we talk a lot about, is that being able to break free and have peace of mind that you have a partner that's going to take care of those things with you with very minimal impact, to your time and all that. And, at Ardiah, that's exactly what we do. For a lot of people, like I was doing my bookkeeping when I was on my own, I was doing it once a year, and that was the October time frame, the year after, October after the year closed, okay, the previous year closed, because also that's the tax deadline after, after I kept on doing my extensions, but I was doing my bookkeeping at that time. Like, how could I make financial decisions? And that's what really inspired me to join a team and be able to do these things, because that's exactly what we do. So if you are somebody that's trying to do your books, like, listen, when you're first starting out, you probably can't afford someone to do your books full time. But what you can do is that you can utilize tools like QuickBooks, Self-Employed, and those things, and then hire a company like our company, Ardiah, where we'll just, on a quarterly basis, just make sure that your quarterlies are nice and tight, your financials are nice and structured the way they should be, and that way you also know where you're at financially, but also too, you're doing this on a quarterly basis instead of once a year.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's very little investment, and now you handle this beautiful package to your tax preparer and say, here are my financials, and they will love you, and it will cost you less money because they don't have to go through and restructure everything to make it make sense for them. But also too, we see this with, so that's bookkeeping, but we also see this with payroll. You're talking about pennies on the dollar when you're talking about your time. And it really isn't that much of an investment to have that outsourced. But because there's a lot of resources that are out there. People talk about Gusto, they talk about, QuickBooks, payroll, but it's having that connective tissue, that team that could be the extension of your business, a team that you can trust, a team that you can call, a team that you can go in and visit. That's exactly the experience our customers have at Ardiah. And, and also too, is that when people are expanding, they have to be able to know, like, how their business is doing. And sometimes, like, if you're a restaurant or retail, how you know how your business is doing is that getting almost down to an hourly segment and having a point of sale system in order to be able to do those things is where we often come in and help. And because you can now visit, like, all right, so my reporting tells me this is my busiest time. This is how many people per table per hour. This is, I also know what staff is producing, what staff isn't producing. So I know who to invest in my growth, especially if I want to expand, like who is actually pulling their weight in a contributor to the team. And so having those tools are so important. So, one of the things I'd like to do is just in closing thoughts is, as we wrap up, Lance, what advice would you give to someone looking to start their own business or grow their existing one?
What advice? The first thing I would have to say is trust yourself. Be honest with yourself. Don't live too much in the bad and the good. There's always balance. And that's been a hard one for me. Like, there's ups and downs. And really find yourself some good outlets, some good people to talk with. And I guess the other part of it is, we talked a little bit about it more than I. Making time.
So important.
Making time. It can consume you. It did for me for years. I was miserable. That's all I worked 7 days a week, and I missed the important stuff. So take time, especially if you got families. Make that time. Work will always be there. Those two things. Really trust yourself. Be honest with these three things, and make the time to spend with family, or do, even if you don't have family, your interest. Find a hobby. I'm 42. I still don't have a hobby. So it's crazy. Like it's been my, for the last 12 years. Baby painting has been almost. It's like I felt like it was part of me, and I'm part of it. Like we're one entity.
That's awesome. That's great advice. One thing I would also say to the listeners and to our viewers, is that for me, it's so important to build relationships, because I was lonely when I was first started. You don't have to be. Build your relationships. Engage in networking groups, coffee hours, find a mentor, Find someone to mentor yourself, like, find a mentee. A lot of people just don't realize you can actually pass along some great knowledge to people, and do that. But also to, is that ask questions, and I think that you're a great example of this, is never stop learning, because change it's happening, if you like it or not. One of the first things that Kathleen, who was when I started at MBNA, she read this quote at MBNA for new higher education, and that's always look forward to the opportunities that come with change. And for change, it's you got to embrace it, but you'll be able to adapt to anything that comes your way if you continue to learn and adapt, and it's so important. So Lance, just in closing, also I'd like just to tell to our listeners and our viewers, like, how can they learn more about Bayview Painting, and more, and how to be able to connect with your business?
We have a Facebook page. We have a website, www.bayviewpaintingmaine.com. We have a ton of stuff on social, the Instagram, the Facebook. I believe Paula's even got us doing TikToks. So that's outside my realm.
Okay.
She's putting the videos on there. So we do a lot of our training. We also capture and stuff like that. So some of those things are going on there. I did tell her, don't ever put one of someone cutting in. I mean, there's been 1,000,001 painters doing the exact same thing. Let's not do that. I guess that's never really.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, and for everyone that's listening. So my company is Ardiah Managed Services. You can go to www.ardiah.com. I am too trying to get outside of just Facebook. I also do a lot of LinkedIn things. For me is that I have a weekly blog that comes out every single Monday. I hope that it's of value to people, because we share some really good things. My thoughts, and it's usually current affairs. It's usually what drives it. So it's current, it's usually relevant as well. But please follow us on Facebook. I'm also going to be building a YouTube page, and so maybe one day I'll have that YouTube content that I can convert over to TikTok, because listen, I think some people don't want to admit it, but TikTok is really, really good. Not just for, the crazy, funny things that you share with your friends, but also too, a lot of learning can be done through YouTube University as well as TikTok University. So
they're outside my wheelhouse, but it seems to be great.
All right, well, that's all for today's episode of Entrepreneurs Hour. A big thank you to Lance Boody for sharing your story today and your insights. Thank you very much. It's been great playing both host as well as the guest today. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode. We have Eric Anderson from Camden Area Business Group, also known as Cabbage. I know that people don't really like being referred as Cabbage, but Camden Area Business Group is a great organization. And also Eric is very involved with the Bayview Collection Group, which is right there in Camden and Rockport. They do some amazing things as well as in Rockland. So I'm excited to have Eric on the show, and he also is a crafter himself. So he's a big guy. So he's actually going to be the only guest next week, because I know we have a lot to talk about, and this has been fun. Until then, stay motivated, keep growing, and don't forget to tune in on WRFR 93.3 Rockland, or stream us online at wrfr.org. And I would just say thank you very much to the station sponsors such as Ardiah Managed Services. Being able to do an investment, be able to support this radio station is so important. I'm proud that my organization can support it, but also to thank you so much for all the sponsors for doing the same thing. Until next time.
Thank you.
Business on.
I didn't want sure. I had questions that I was like, I asked asking questions, you segue right into something else.
You're tuned to local radio.